I always say, think back to the things when you were a child that brought joy and wonderment and bring that back to adults. You will not believe how much joy that brings to people. Adults need a lot of wonderment these days.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. I'm excited today because this is a bonus episode. So this is not our normal episode. Instead of finding one more top producing realtor who's doing $50 million and is super awesome and wants to brag about how great they are, today I have on my friend Meghan, who actually is the complete opposite. So she's the person who is fed, her soul is fed when she makes others happy. So I figured she was the perfect person to interview during the holiday season. And for those listening, for tips for other holidays on how we can really take our gifting and our events to the next level. So this episode is not going to be your normal one, but I think you're going to get more value from this than a lot of the other things we've talked about recently, right? Like we don't need to call our database 500 more times asking for business during the holiday season. So Meghan Howard, welcome to the
Hi,
show.
Matt. I'm honored to finally make the podcast. I think it's been on 2 years now. So I'm honored.
Well,
2 years.
now I'll probably abuse it, and I'll have you on every 2 weeks when I don't find anyone else that I want to bother. But I just want to get started. So I've known you for 11 plus years, and for years I feel like the joke was that like no one actually knew what you do, but we knew you made the office better. And I have now been the recipient of your gifting. I've been the recipient of trips that you've planned along with other people, and everything you touch is just a little bit more thought out, probably a lot more thought out than things you get from other people. So I just walk us through like what you do, and I'd love to hear more about your approach to gifting and events, because you make people feel more special than most.
Thanks, Matt. It means a lot. So I've made a career out of gifting, and I know that sounds strange, and you're right. People are like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm branding, but branding is a feeling. It's storytelling. So what you want to do is you want to create a feeling so that people tell the story to their friends. And that's really the art of branding. And gifting is a big part of successful branding. And, I think when people think about gifting, they always think about expensive gifts. And that isn't the case at all. I think some of the most profound gifts I've given are ones that are either free or ones that I've thought or made. And I go back to a great story. We did some work as a company with a neuroscientist called Rene Rodriguez. And he came and did some work for us as a company. And so he and his wife came to the company, and they said, we really need to wow this guy. He's coming in, he's going to help us with recruiting tools, and he's brilliant. So Meghan, think of some great gifts for them. We really need to wow them. So Renee does this on a corporate level all over the world. And so I was like, what do I get this guy? So I got him some really great expensive gifts for sure. But during the course of our training session with Renee, his wife started talking about the fact that she was really cheap. And so one of the gifts that she would give her children if they behaved nicely was ice. And I was like, excuse me, I'm a mom. Your children will do what you say if you say you're going to give them ice. And she's like, yes. And I thought that was so funny. And so that night we did a 9-hour grueling training session. I called the hotel. I had already dropped my very expensive, nice gifts in their room, and then called the hotel and said, hey, listen, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to bring a big ice bucket in, fill it with ice, and just put a note on there that says, you earned your ice tonight. And that is something he still talks about 2 years later on the road. And that's a great example of gifting. It's really not about what you give somebody. It's the message behind it. And oftentimes I think there's two things that overlook the most in gifting. One is presentation, and two is the note that ties the gift of the purpose you gave that gift. A lot of times I get gifts and I think like someone will give me a bottle of bourbon, and I was like, I've never drank anything brown in my life. And so those gifts feel empty. But when you really study somebody and you understand what they love, like you, Matt, like Matt's the easiest person to buy for because he loves two things: pickleball and wine. Travel. 3 things: travel. So Matt's a pretty easy candidate to buy for. But I think we oftentimes are so concerned about what we're giving and not why and who, right? So I think gifting comes down to the fact that you got to know who you're giving the gift to. And then it's all in the note. Like the note is what ties the red thread to everything together. Like, why did you give this person, or what do you want this person to do with this gift? I've worked in all different industries and fields where I've had huge budgets for gifting and where I've had no money for gifting. And honestly, the most fun I have is when I have to work on really tight budgets. Like when I talk about gifting, I'm talking about like President's Club trips or, speakers that come in for our sales rallies and we want to wow them and give them the neighborhood loans experience. Those gifts are oftentimes ones I spend a lot of time researching these people and figuring out what makes them tick. And it's not expensive things that often touch their hearts. It's just the little gestures. So
Well, I want to like dwell on this for a second because that ice story is so powerful because it really shows that, I'm sure you got them, some fancy purses, some luggage, something like that. But other people who have a big bank account could also have gotten them those gifts. And they probably have gotten things like that before. You could give someone, so many realtors out there listening can give someone a $500 gift card, can give
yeah.
someone one expensive present, maybe a
Don't
snowblower,
ever
right?
buy a gift card, Matt. That
Right?
is the worst gift anyone could possibly give as a gift card. First of all, we all know we all have a drawer full of gift cards that we throw them in and we don't remember who gave them to us. And sometimes we forget to use them, but they mean nothing. Gift cards
Right, but
mean nothing.
you found a way to just listen to something that someone was
Yeah.
saying and get them a gift that they've now talked about 500 times. So, I mean, is the key just, and I've seen you do this before, like we've been at dinner and all of a sudden, I know you're not the kind of person that takes your phone out at dinner, but all of a sudden you hear something and I can see your brain spinning. You take out your phone, you email yourself to like do something later on. Is that what we need to do? Just listen a little bit better and come up with something creative?
Yeah. It's listening. It truly is just listening. And I always laugh because I took a course one year in college. It was my senior year. I'm like, I'm going to take billiards and I'm going to take listening. I failed listening. It was the only class in college I failed. And I learned in that semester that listening is actually a skill that nobody knows how to do. But once you really tune into people and listen to what they love, and I also think that the true gift of a like the true wonder of a gift is like in wonderment. Like you hear me talk about that all the time, Matt. Wonderment is something we lose when we're not. Children have wonderment, but adults, we don't have it anymore. But you can get that back with these small little gifts that bring back childhood memories. I just did an invitation for our President's Club this year, and I did the invitation on a viewfinder. And if you all remember, I think any generation can remember the viewfinder with the little pictures in it. I had so many emails and text messages about how much like that the feelings were evoked by that viewfinder. So that's the kind of thing I'm thinking, like you want to give gifts that evoke either wonderment or joy. I've coined a phrase called a suppresent, and it's a surprise present. And I think suppresents are the best because they're presents you weren't expecting. And people are, when they're caught off guard and you give them a really thoughtful gift and they didn't know was coming, is like it blows people away. So I highly suggest people give more presents. But I think about when I think about presents, Matt, I mean, you can get yourself anything you want, but I know what your favorite gift was of all time that our team
You
gave you.
do.
Talk
And I
about
use it
that
all the
gift.
time.
Yes. So Matt loves wine and he's a good showman. So there's two things. And so our team gets us a gift every year. So what did they get you 2 years ago, Matt?
They got me a champagne saber, which is a sword dating back to the Napoleonic times that you could use to open a bottle of champagne. I have now mastered the art of sabrage, thanks to you guys, my team. And I honestly, like, I feel like I've brought joy to so many people. Like when they come over for a party or when I go to their parties, I can open their champagne with a sword, and it's a show.
Yeah.
And it was a
So fun.
surprise. They're not horribly expensive, but I think I mentioned it to someone on the team for 2 seconds in passing that look at this video, how cool is this? And like 9 months later, that shows up in my stocking.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool. I've heard, when I think of like gifting, I think of realtors. I think that most people do gifting because they know that they have to. They feel like obligated to do gifting. And from what I'm hearing from you is we almost need to first break down that barrier and move past it in order to really do good gifting. Because at the end of the day, like if you have 100 past clients and you want to gift all of them, you can't really do unique gifts for everyone. But if you break it down maybe and do presents to use your word throughout the course of the year, you could be so much more impactful and really give people things that are memorable. I talked to a realtor on this show a couple months ago, and he sent a babysitter over. He sent his daughter over to babysit the
Right.
kids of a client, and then he called ahead and made them a restaurant reservation. I don't even think he bought them their dinner. He simply coordinated a date night for two busy people, and I think that is memorable, and no one else is doing that. So I think if you're listening, you need to figure out what is no one else doing and what could fit into your budget, because
Totally.
there's an idea that would fit any budget for anyone.
And I think agents go at it all wrong. You know, a lot of agents will go and order mass produced cutting boards and put their logo on it. Well, I don't want that. Would you want that? It's like I think every gift, if you really want to spend money that's useful and makes an impact, I think you need to know the client and give to that client. Every client should have a different gift. Not You shouldn't be giving the same gift to every client. I have a friend who is a big gardener, loves to grow her own herbs, does it all year round. And she's like, I love them, but I hate picking the herbs off the stems. And so I found this great little pottery bird on Uncommon Goods, which, by the way, is a great site for gifting. And it was a little bird that someone had crafted, and it has different cuts in its tail depending on what herb you're pulling. So you could put the herb and slide it through, and it cuts the leaves off. So it's like there's a mint side, there's a rosemary side, a thyme side. Like just listening to that, like I know she loves her herbs, but her least favorite part is picking the herbs off. I remembered that, wrote that down in April, and bought it for her for Christmas. Hopefully she doesn't see this, but it's those kind of thoughtful gifts, but I think you need to gift, and I like Matt services. I think a gift is something you won't do for yourself. A true gift is something you wouldn't get for yourself. It's something, so like getting a babysitter and planning the whole evening, that is the best gift I think as parents we could possibly think of. I also think services are always a great gift. Like when you're a realtor, like finding someone who's a really great window washer, have their
Mm.
windows washed. If you've never had your windows professionally washed, once you get it done, you're like, oh my God, this is stunning. I can actually see out my windows. But those little things, like to make people's lives, I say two things. If it doesn't bring joy or value, then don't do it.
Right.
But
And
the gift,
I know like realtors who have, had people's cars detailed,
yes.
little things like that, like all the things, it's like, it's kind of pricey, so you don't do it all that often on your own. When you have it done, it's friggin' awesome.
Yeah, you never go back. It's just like, what's that crystal car detailing in town?
Yeah.
They're super expensive, but guess what? They will drive you to the airport and they will take your car and then pick you up. Like that's a service. I will pay whatever it costs to detail my car. And the fact that they create that service for me. So gifting doesn't have to be things. It can be services and it can be an experience. And I think, as I say this, I say experiences are probably, I'd say the most powerful thing we can give to people, period.
I
Absolutely.
love that. I think it all breaks down to the same real thing I talk to agents about when it comes to lead generation, and that is if you can take 5 minutes for every person in your database and apply critical thinking to it, where you almost just like pull up their name and then turn off your screen and just think about that person for 5 minutes. It sounds creepy, but it's not.
No.
You'll figure out something really great for them, or reflect back on a problem they had, or reflect back on something that they were super into, something like that. I think you could have a ton of fun with it. But I know I want to value your time. Events are the other big one. So you've planned some of the craziest events I've ever been to in my life, including I went on a chocolate tour at a chocolate plantation in St. Lucia with you. I went on a subway ride with you, but that was more of something we had to do than something you planned. But let's talk about events really quick, because we're kind of in that Christmas season where no one is, I hate to say this, but I'm the pessimist in me, the Scrooge is coming out. No one is that excited to go to another Christmas party. I think I have 4 this week, only one of which you planned. But so many people want to throw events because they feel like they need to. Give the average realtor, the average salesperson, some tips for events that don't suck.
I think plan a party that you would go to. So if you're asking people to step away from their families for the night, they're tired, they're exhausted. If you're going to plan an event, make it something that you would want to go to. So don't serve bad booze. Serve good food. I think that you don't always have to have a party at Christmas. Like, I think that you can have great parties throughout the year. You can have a summer solstice party, 4th of July party, a St. Patrick's Day party. You don't have to have the parties when everyone else throws the parties. In fact, I think it's better to have it on off holidays. But I think Christmas parties, think about out of the box, like do a Christmas brunch. It doesn't always have to be a cocktail party. You could do a brunch or a breakfast or, I think we have to constantly challenge ourselves to do things differently. I love interactive parties where I helped plan a party for one of our loan officers here. She's having a cocktail, a gentleman who owns a bunch of cocktail companies. And he also is a historian on alcohol. He's a showman. He's coming in and he's going to sit around her kitchen island and teach her guests how to make 3 classic cocktails properly.
Now that's an event
And
that I would go to, right? Because
right.
it's educational. I'm not just sitting there to network. I think it's good for introverts and extroverts, but it's just a little bit different than the normal happy hour that everybody else is doing.
Yeah. It takes the pressure off too, right? Because everyone's doing something. We also did try a new concept where we had like some local artisans that we knew of, people in town, like people within our office that make great things. And we had one of our loan officers had a party and put the artisans down in her basement, and people could shop while they were at her holiday party and buy stuff from local artisans. Just thinking outside the box. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. I think, I'm a lover of brunch. So anytime that anyone has a brunch party, and there's not enough of them to tell you the truth, I think a thoughtful party, you can feel a thoughtful party. A party that was thrown together, you can feel that too. So if you're going to throw a party, just make it thoughtful. And again, wonderment. I always go back to wonderment. If you can bring back elements of childhood, things that like excited you as a kid, bring Santa in for adults. I mean, that's super fun. Bring a reindeer in the front yard. I mean, just little things that are
I feel like what you
quirky.
just said, I feel like you went really fast through it. So I want to repeat that. You
Yeah.
said bring Santa in, and then
Yep.
you said for adults. And
Yes.
that's amazing, right? Because I feel like I've been invited to 3 Christmas parties this year where I can bring my kids in and we can get in line. There's hot chocolate, and like my kids can get in on Santa's lap. But like, not to sound like a weirdo, but like I want to get on Santa's lap. I want to tell Santa what the hell I want, right? Like we're all a little bit selfish. I think, when you put a slight little twist on an event that people weren't expecting, it becomes a lot more memorable. And I know like one thing you've really taught me over the years is that the day of the event it's going to be a shit show, whatever. The real money in the event is the before and after, right? It's the ability to make all those phone calls, to personally invite people to the event, to really kind of sex up the event, make it sound
Yeah.
exciting, get people pumped, and then afterwards to either write a note or call with gratitude, expressing to people that it meant a lot to you that they came. And if you're able to do both of those things, even if you only had a couple people who were able to make it to the event, it is so much more of a success.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one year we did for the loan officer, one of our loan officers, we did Uggs. We did Ugg slippers as a gift. So we got everyone's shoe size and ordered Uggs. And as they left, they got their little bags and went outside. And these people can afford their own Ugg slippers. But for some reason, being gifted Ugg slippers, again, Ugg slippers are one of those things that we all love, but maybe we would do it for ourselves because she was paying $120 for slippers. But I'm telling you what, they were like kids in a candy shop. And I think, again, that was a higher end item, but like you can go. I mean, I went to a party where there was reindeer in the front yard, and I like lost my mind. I am in my 40s, but I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I would love to sit on Santa's lap with a martini, and everybody would. And after a few martinis, everyone's on Santa's lap. So yeah, I think I always say, think back to the things when you were a child that brought joy and wonderment, and bring that back to adults. You will not believe how much joy that brings to people. Adults need a lot of wonderment these days, and so I guess my number one tip would be think of things that bring your kids joy or brought you joy as a kid, and bring that to adults.
I mean, and there's so many. This sounds harder than it really is. Like for me,
Yeah.
like I would look through my phone. I would schedule 15 minutes. If it's not scheduled, it's not going to happen. I would schedule 15 minutes. I would look through my phone, and I'd look for my last 200 photos. Where was I the most happiest? Where were my kids the happiest? And then I'd think, could I recreate that for other people? Like
Yeah.
I was in Portugal, and I went to a family-owned winery, and I saw that now there's a tool that you can open up a bottle of wine with fire. So instead of using a sword, you can do it with fire. And I
Wow.
Googled it, and it's like, okay, like this is $60. So I'm going to buy this for 5 of my friends that I know really like
Yeah.
wine. Yeah, like I want to figure
I
something
love
out. Or
that.
I took my kids, the best day we had all year was we went on an alpaca walk through the forest, and it was $20 a person, which like very budget friendly for almost anyone. And the kids got a leash and they got to walk an alpaca. And the fun thing is when you're walking alpaca, they turn around and spit at you while you're like, they can turn their whole necks around. And I thought this is so much fun for anyone.
Yeah.
And I found an alpaca farm in Grand Rapids, close by to Grand Rapids. So now I could do an event like this
Yeah.
for my customers or for my friends.
Yeah.
And that's
And
unique.
that's exactly right, Matt. And I think your experiences over gifts all day long. I'm going to say that right now. If you can give people experiences, that's the way you create impact. You build stronger relationships with people, whether that's personal or professional. Experiences are what people tell stories about. If you're going to gift thoughtfully. Know who you're gifting and why you're gifting it, and explain it in the note of why you're gifting it. don't gift to gift because you can feel
Yeah.
it. We all know that. We get gifts all the time. I love these. There was a couple guys that work at our company that came in last week, and they gifted me two like containers of mini Cool Ranch Doritos. I was like, I love you boys, but like, I don't, like, so if you're gonna gift, it doesn't. I would gift in a way that's meaningful. Again, it doesn't have to be expensive at
I
all.
love that.
It never does. So just thoughtfulness and getting to know the person. It doesn't take long, Matt. You know this, to get on social media and figure out what these people love. Their
No,
whole
and I
lives
think the other big thing is, you mentioned like the guy that did the Uggs, and I think like yes, he did the same present for 40 people, but what we didn't say on this already is that step two is the thank you, the note that he left with every person. So every single pair of Uggs had a completely different note
true.
that reflected on his relationship with that individual person, with a little note at the end on why he got that for that person. Now everyone did get the same gift in their size, but the note was really the personalizing item there. So if you have 500 people and you absolutely have to do a mass gift, the note is really what ties it apart, or what ties it all together and makes it more personal.
It's all about the note. Actually, it's all about the note. And I think right now everyone's longing for such connectiveness and sense of community now. And there's such an isolation with social media. And I think that like what was old is new again. So like, there's really fun things you can get inventive with your friends and create like roaming dinner parties, which my parents used to do when I was a kid. You have an appetizer course at one house and then you walk to your neighbors and do the main course and walk to another neighbors and do dessert. And then you do after dinner drinks at another. Like looking at some of these, creating traditions and having, doing these small events, like our Kayla doing that bartending event, like fun old school events where people are connecting around a table. Um, I don't think it's big events anymore. I think they're small and intimate. The smaller, the better these days. I think, a party over 20 is kind of, after that, you don't get to have personal conversations. I think smaller dinner parties are kind of where people are right now. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I would say not only is it more enjoyable, but also like from a logistics standpoint, I know a lot of realtors listening, the idea of doing an event, it's an immediate turnoff for them because they think of those giant events when we've done some of those in the past, but they're a lot of work, they're very expensive, and you might get to the end of the night and have spent your entire time on logistics coordination and just saying hi to everybody
Yeah.
and not had a single deep conversation. Versus you do an event with 8 people, not only do each of those people then get to know each other and form their own mini relationships, and then you're at the center of that little universe, but you get to actually figure out what's going on in their life, and that's where you can really pull some deals out of. You
Yeah.
find out their sister's moving to town, their mom's moving into a home and needs to sell. You find out about a sad divorce, a new baby, all those things you can do at a small event, and you do have a chance to do it at a big event, but you really have to make that effort and have a lot of people assisting you in order for those opportunities to present themselves.
Yeah.
So I think, like, don't
Really
overlook
quick.
small parties.
Right. Exactly. And I was just reminded of the time during COVID, actually, when we couldn't have our Christmas party. So what we did is we took all of our staff to Romance Gardens and we gave them money to pick out Christmas trees. Here's $150. Go, get plants or get Christmas tree or get Christmas decorations or whatever. That is a great thing for an agent to do. Have all of your clients come to a local small business. So it's like two birds with one stone. You're rewarding past clients, but you're also supporting local small businesses. We brought in Santa, we had hot chocolate, and people went in and got their Christmas trees, picked out Christmas trees, and we made it kind of an event to get you a tree instead of something that you're rushing to do on a Sunday before Monday. And so it became a really fun thing. I think that's a really fun, like that's a fun activity to do with clients for the holiday. Instead of
You
doing the
also
party, get the Christmas trees, go to a Christmas tree farm and cut down trees and let their whole family experience the gratitude that you're giving just that one person, but give it to their whole family.
you also mentioned two things that we have to unpack that you said. Number one, you can look through your past customer database and figure out who is selling a product or service that I could give to the rest of my other clients.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that is really where the magic happens, because even if you don't get an immediate deal from the person you give the gift to, you have made some serious money for one of your clients and helped them spread the word about their business. Who do you think they're going to go to next time when they need
Exactly.
your service? And then the second thing you mentioned is really almost like shifting your strategy and creating an event or an experience for your customers' family, kids, wife, husband, etc., rather than just for them. Because if I think about myself, yes, like within reason, I can't buy a Ferrari today. I can't buy a new Rolex every day. but I can buy whatever book I want to buy. I can buy any bottle of wine that I want within reason. But if you do something that will amuse my kids or make my wife happy, that's like
Right?
that's all I need. Hell, you could have a Christmas wrapping party where I drop my presents off and you will wrap them, and you would have my business for life because I still need to find someone this year
That's
to
a
wrap my
great
gifts.
idea, Matt. You know, one of the things we're doing right now that we do every year that's literally virtually cheap besides postage is we do a letter to Santa to our VIPs. Say, hey, if you would like your kids to get a letter from Santa, let us know. Our designers made up this beautiful letter from Santa. We put it in a red envelope and we put a wax stamp on it from the North Pole. We go to the post office and we tell them it's from Santa, so they postmark it from the post office from the North Pole. And people's kids get these letters from Santa. You've made the nice list. We're going to bring you your presents. You're a good kid. This is the kind of touches that don't cost a lot but have a huge amount of impact. Again, tapping into wonderment, right?
I love that. Well, Megan, if someone wants to up their gifting game, their events game, and they just have some basic questions for you, how would they get a hold of you?
You can look me up at Treadstone's website. You've got my email and my phone number right there, and under Meet the Team, and you can find me. And I love to talk about gifts and events because I do believe it's not a broad subject. I think it's something you have to bring down to the intimate level about who you're trying to impress or attract or to show gratitude to. And so I love to talk about ideas and any of those. So reach out if you need to.
And both Megan and I would love to hear what's worked best for you. So if
Yes.
you've done a gift, if you've done a client party, if you've done an experience that really hit it out of the ballpark and was meaningful for you and for your clients, DM us and please let us know, because our favorite thing to do is to kind of take interesting ideas and spread the word to everyone else so that we can kind of up the collective game in our industry. So everyone, thanks for listening. Leave a review on Google, on the podcast store on Google if you haven't already. Thanks, Megan.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. See ya.